Hey Josh, you all right? How's it going today?
Hey mate, how you doing? It's an early start for us, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it's good. Yeah, I guess we're both very happy with England and looking forward to chatting about FanTeam.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you remember much of Saturday or?
Yeah, it is all a bit of a blur to be honest. It was just kind of a party from the start, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, when you score like 2-3 minutes in, it just becomes a different kind of game. It eases the nerves a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was so good though, mate. And we're on to Wednesday now.
Yeah, it's exciting times.
Yeah, maybe it is coming home. I don't know. Let's see.
I hope so. The narrative's there though, isn't it? After it, like Southgate, like his experience with England, just to kind of win it at Wembley. Oh,
Yeah. Obviously in our lifetime, we've never got the semi-finals. Always been like there's been a few stumbles at the semi-final
yeah,
since we've been alive. I was really young in like '96, obviously, but we saw the one 3 years ago in the World Cup. If we get over this psychological hurdle, I think this might be the time. So fingers crossed for Wednesday.
fingers crossed indeed. All right.
What did you think of the game on Saturday? Like in terms of individual performances, or?
Oh, that's a good question. I was really impressed with Kane, to be honest. Like, I thought he just looked like more energetic, more there, wanting to make a difference than he did. Like I remember against Scotland, like he just didn't seem to touch the ball much. And then Shaw as well, he was just so influential yesterday. Like, yeah,
Shaw's been brilliant every game he's played, hasn't he?
yeah,
And hopefully we're back to the Harry Kane we know from the Premier League for the last like 4 seasons or whatever, where he just does the business and scores the goals. Basically, he's never someone who strikes me as having like really amazing games, like in terms of what he offers, other than goals. But you just know he's going to be the guy who gets you 25, 30 a season. So like
yeah,
he's just an auto pick, you know what I mean? And hopefully he's found that form just in time in this tournament. So
mm,
I'm really happy for Harry Kane. Yeah.
yeah, same. Okay, so on to fan team. I guess we'll start off just by reminding about the rules because I know like, they've changed it a bit and just make sure everyone's on the same page really. So I guess you have 3 free transfers to use now, and then you can do more, can't you? If you want, you can take some hits.
Yeah.
And
Exactly. Yeah. So it's 3 free transfers, and you could take as many hits as you want. But this is your last opportunity to do any transfers whatsoever. Yeah.
so no transfer for the final. And I guess deadline 90 minutes before kickoff tomorrow. So that will be what 6.
That'd be 6:30 UK. Yeah, 6:30 UK. I think. Yeah. It feels good to not have a 5 o'clock game, to be honest, because I hate the 3:30 deadline. I have to say, I think 6:30 feels a bit more manageable after
It
work,
does,
doesn't it? If people are working and stuff. Yeah. So just 2 8 o'clock games, one a night for the next 2 days after today. So all good.
I've still got nightmares from the fantasy season that's just gone. I think I had to do my free hit by like 6:30 or something. Oh, might have been earlier, and I didn't do it. So my fantasy season was done because I just lost out on doing my free hit when there's only like 3 teams playing on it. So that's annoying.
I've heard a few nightmares in this tournament actually, because in a 7-week tournament, if you miss a deadline, it's almost all over. I'd say at that point, if you're like not maximising 3 or 4 free transfers in the last few rounds, for example, then like I think it's really hard to catch up that kind of edge, giving away that kind of edge. You know what I mean? So, and I heard one story about someone who missed playing his wild card in week 4. I mean, that's just a disaster of it. That's like as bad as it can get, almost like missing a whole wild card. Similar to your free hit nightmare, I'd imagine.
It's true. The thing I did like about like fantasy though is like if you say to yourself, right, I'm going to make every single deadline, I'm going to be committed to this for the duration. I know, like obviously that with a fan team for that season-long game. I do think you just put yourself in the top 50% of players just by making every single deadline and doing any old move.
I think that number's almost spot on, to be honest. Yeah, I think there's about half players who just by making every deadline, even if you have a relative disaster of a season, you're probably in the top 50%. Yeah, just by making the deadline, and obviously like making sure the other things. So you use both wild cards. You always like remember to change your captain. I think that'll get you quite high just off bat, really. Yeah, it's obviously more important for people who've got multiple teams, because to miss it on one team's one thing. Obviously, that's like a certain amount of equity gone. But
Yeah,
if you miss the deadline and you've got 50 teams, it's like it's really bad news. So it's just important to set these reminders for yourself and stuff. And also get other people to remind you is the other thing. Like have someone else, have someone else that will agree to just remind you, and you'll remind them, or vice versa. And hopefully between you can not miss one. But
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And then I guess the other thing to remind people of is that you can like change your captain and starting 11 before the final, even though you can't like do transfers.
Yeah, so I was looking at some of my teams and I was thinking it was like a bit of a disaster to have like not all from two teams. But if I suppose if the worst case happens and the two teams you've mainly like gone all in on as would be both go out, it's nice to have like an 11th man, I suppose, who plays for one of the other teams who you can, I suppose, captain in the last week. I mean, you're not going to expect much from them, but it's better than not having a captain at all, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I'm quite worried. I've got quite a few all England and Italy teams. If they go out, I've literally got no captain for the final week, so that'll be fun
Gosh.
to just watch zero players play. But hopefully it goes the other way anyway. Hopefully the results go the way I want them to. But yeah.
Yeah. I never
Right,
thought
should we go on?
Yeah, zero captains. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. I was just saying zero cap. It's just a disaster to have zero captains, isn't it? And the starting 11 thing, I suppose it only matters if you've got more than 11. But I'm sure there'll be some people who might be able to get up to 13 this week for free, for example. So
Yeah.
it's a nice little bonus, like safety net to have, I suppose, to have a few extra. So in case a few of your lads go out, they can just come in for the final. So yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right. So moving on to looking at the teams. So here's your number one team. Can you talk about this a bit?
Yeah, sure. So I think obviously I don't think it's had a spectacular game week. I think it's more than okay. I don't think it's bad at all. If I remember rightly, I was on a -4 on this one because I think it was my team that started the game week as my top team. I think it just stayed as my top team. But I mean, you can't complain, I guess, with 6.3 from the captain. I mean, it's not the haul that Harry Kane or Maguire or Shaw got or whatever. But I think other than those three, there wasn't really anyone captained of any significance that got a really big haul. So I guess I just have to be happy to have the four England rather for the next round, because I think England's a really strong team to target for the next round. And then who else have I got for next round? Immobile, Damsgaard, and Mailer. So yeah, and potentially Sarabia, but I'm not too excited about that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's badly set. I think this team I probably won't have to take a hit on. I don't think, just get rid of the two Belgians and Spinazzola. So hopefully if the results go the way I need them to, with England and maybe probably Italy winning the other game, or Spain, should be in a decent position to have a little rank rise before the end of the final, I think. But yeah. How many hits do you think people will be on this week? Do you think people will take hits this week as well, or?
Yeah, I think they will. I think because you can't make transfers before the final, I do think it is rational to kind of make a hit to make sure you do have at least one player on the bench. Because I mean, it is foreseeable that one of your 11 doesn't play anyway. So
yeah, I think that's interesting. I think it's I think sometimes to a degree it might depend which guys you have in the 11 as well. You know what I mean? So if you really strongly fancy a team to go out, then maybe you do want to get an extra, like a first sub, for example, just to cover you for this week more than anything, but also a little bonus feature of having it for the final as well in case one of your teams goes out. So it's like a twofold.
yeah,
two insurance chances, I guess.
I get that.
But yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, with some teams it's like you're splitting between two, like might have like two Denmark and four England. So like you're gonna need that player on the bench for the final. Like certainly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point actually. Yeah, so if you're hedging it, you know it's going to be an extra player for the final, like in terms of your minimum amount that you'll have.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are going to be in the position, to be honest, where they have like quite an even split of all four teams, which isn't a bad thing. Like it definitely reduces your variance a little bit, because you're going to guaranteed probably have 6 for the final, for example, if you're in that spot I just talked about. Which can't be a bad thing. It just limits your upside a little bit.
Yeah.
But on coming back to this team specifically, really quickly, obviously, it feels like a no-brainer to just sell Lukaku, De Bruyne, and Spinazzola, to be honest, because that's where all the money is more than anything. I've already got Sterling, so Lukaku will go to Kane. Obviously, I think that's with the De Bruyne money in the midfield. I think that's just an obvious slight upgrade I'll make on Lukaku.
Yeah.
Spinazzola, I'll probably try and do to an England defender for the same reasons, because I've already got 4 England defence. I will have 4 England defence rather if I do that move. And then I'll just do De Bruyne to whoever I can in midfield, maybe a Ferran Torres or an Insigne or something like that. Feels sensible, I think.
Yeah. That they all seem like great moves, to be honest. And yeah, at this stage, there's not really that many options for us, so it is kind of like you're playing the odds, really, isn't it? Just.
I think it's Kane, Insigne, and Shaw. Yeah, to be honest, for my 3 moves, no hit required. I mean, it's annoying to have Sarabia because I believe he's an injury doubt. I've seen that on Twitter yesterday, I think, but he might be back for the final, even if he doesn't feature this game for whatever reason. So I think I'm happy to just go with no hit on this one. I feel like I've got all the main bases covered once I get Insigne and Kane, really.
Yeah, because with this, it's like you'll take your 3 transfers, no hit, and with that, you probably won't have 11 out for the final. But that's okay, right? It's still not worth taking a hit for that.
It's sometimes a case of what you can do, because this is a good point to raise, actually, because looking at this bench, there's no money on this bench.
Yeah.
Like if I had a 12th man that was, say, Wijnaldum, I think that's probably almost certainly worth a hit, because you can probably get someone decent like Barella or something like that as your 12th man. On this for Ramsey, I think I could only get a bench fodder, to be honest. I don't think I could get anyone who even starts in either of the last 4 teams. So I think it's team dependent, but because all my money's on the pitch in this team, I don't think it's worth taking a hit for a 12th man. Whereas I think for some people, if they've got some money left over, especially, it might be worth a hit for a 12th man. So
yeah. I guess it's difficult because you're taking a hit for someone that might not even make the final. So it's quite difficult to justify, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it definitely is. And I'm already going to lose, even if England get through, which is like my best result, like in terms of both for my own happiness and also for this team. But I'm going to lose 2 Denmark players, aren't I, if England go through? That's just the logic of it, obviously. But yeah, I just can't see how Ramsey to anyone can be worth a hit, even if I've got like $1 million in the bank or something. There's only really Pedri, who's like a reasonable midfielder for 5'9", I think.
Yeah.
But obviously, to have $1 million in the bank, I have to sort of make a downgrade elsewhere, which probably isn't worth it, because then does it become 2 hits, or are you just picking someone worse for your starting 11 so you have a bit of a better bench? I think a lot of people are going to have these dilemmas, and I personally prefer in this exact scenario to just put all the money on the pitch and just have 11 and be happy with it. I've got a captain for the final, because I can either captain, even if I don't regard the Italy and Spain players for a second, I'm either going to have an England player through or a Denmark player through. So it's not the end of the world. I'm going to have someone for the final at least. So
yeah. That's very
and
true.
I'm really happy with the 3 I'm bringing in as well, Insigne, Kane, and Shaw. So yeah, I think I'm happy with just the 3 moves. Yeah. Should we go on to the next one?
Yeah, go on. So this is like what, 12,000 rank or something. So you're trying to get in the money.
Yeah. So this is one of the ones that's obviously quite nicely set for next week, albeit that maybe on the pitch I didn't get as many points as I would have liked. Made a bad captaincy choice with the goalie. I was just trying to maximise that clean sheet if it came in. I think just like trying to hit it. I've obviously got quadruple plus another cap on top, but it's nice to have this situation because you can almost use 3 moves to get 2 subs, and you don't have to worry about it. I'm obviously not going to be taking out any Spain, Italy, or England players. I think that would be like not negligence, but like I don't think that'd be the correct move to make, basically. So I think Wijnaldum, Yarmolenko, and Isaac, I can sell those and get someone like who starts at least for their team. So
yeah,
I'm probably looking at something like Barella, Pedri, and Damsgaard or maybe Dolberg I can afford if I'm lucky. So that those seem like three really nice moves. Probably bench Dolberg and maybe Verratti I might bench just because it's against 4 Spain defenders, or bench one of the 4 Spain defenders. And that feels like a really nice 11 with 2 subs as well. So it probably boosts my chances of having more in the final. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
I think that's ideal. And even though you don't have much money to spend, you've actually kind of selected 3 decent players. Really.
Yeah. So in certain situations, you can get to like 3 decent ones. It just depends who you already have a lot of the time. Like in a lot of my teams, I've already got Pedri and Barella. So then it becomes a little more difficult to get like decent players, because I think there's very few still in that 6 to sort of 7.5 whatever bracket that actually start and look good as well. So
who are you looking at instead, like Calvin Phillips or someone?
Well, I've been bringing in a lot of Calvin Phillips just because I hope he gets 2 games. Like I think I've been limiting that to just teams where I've got sort of 5 or 6 England already.
Yeah.
So I want Calvin because I'm back in the England result. So I want to maximise my upside again. So if the England team go through, obviously I know Calvin Phillips is going to get 2 times 90 minutes and probably get maybe a clean sheet bonus or something. I know we're scraping the barrel here a little bit, but just like that's clearly worth a transfer if I'm going to get 2 games out of him, I think, rather than say like Højbjerg, who will be playing against my England defence, for example, and also has like similar upside to Calvin Phillips anyway, I'd say. So the only other thing to flag here is Laporte might be injured. I've heard that on Twitter as well, I think. So it's nice to have a sub on this team at least, just in case he doesn't play for whatever reason, and then it covers me a bit even just for this week, let alone the final. So it's like a double good reason to have a first and second sub.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think what you've done well here is you've got like a really strong, I guess it's like 15 men, isn't it? So like you're ready for like to bring in, to make changes with your 3 transfers. So I think that's worked out quite well, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've been toying with the idea on a few teams of like getting a second goalie, but I don't think it makes sense in a lot of the spots. I think you're better off just getting more outfield players, aren't you? Because they cover more positions in case someone misses out. Whereas in the goalie slot, if Spain go through, I'm absolutely fine to place him on twice. You know what I mean? It's just like how much emphasis do you put on how good the goalie is? Like on a few teams, I've got Schmeichel in goal. Would you cover that, do you think? Or
sorry, what was that?
If I've got Schmeichel in goal, for example, I've got that on 2 or 3 teams or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think it's good to get in a reserve goalie in that situation? Or like, do you think it's still better to get like reserve outfield players and prioritise that?
That's a good question. Because, I guess we looked at the odds, didn't we? And we saw, I think there's like a 20% chance of Denmark getting through. So it's like for the final, you're quite unlikely to see Schmeichel in goal. So you probably justify a hit there.
Yeah, because over the 2 games, especially if you're back in England to win, like I've got some teams where I already had like 4 Denmark. So in those ones, ironically, I'm going to just shoot for the moon and try and hit like the Denmark win. And like, because those teams will absolutely fly if Denmark go through, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Because I think Denmark are probably going to pull the least ownership out of the 4 teams, aren't they?
Yeah, that is true.
So there's two of my really good teams, for example. I've got 4 Denmark defenders already from the last round. Because I just picked down wild card, I think, and I just rode it to the moon, or tried to anyway. But so in those teams, I probably won't cover Schmeichel because that for all intents and purposes, those teams are probably dead if Denmark don't go through. They're going to absolutely plummet anyway. So
remember when you said about Bachmann and Donnarumma, and that worked out quite well. I think you do the same with the Schmeichel team to get in Pickford if you can.
That's really nice, actually. It's ironic because, like you said, I think I gave out that advice, but I almost forgot it at this point. Then you know what I mean, like so that's really nice to do that. If you've got the money to do it, like on a team like this, let's imagine Schmeichel's in goal on this team. If you've got the money to do an Olsen to Pickford, then that might be really nice.
But I think it was quite expensive, wasn't it? 7.
Yeah, he's 7. Yeah, that's why. On this team, if I was covering Simon for whatever reason, I believe I'd go Donnarumma, obviously for the same reason you just talked about, but also Donnarumma feels much better value than Pickford for 6 rather than 7. But I don't know. To be honest, Glenn, it doesn't feel like England are ever going to concede again, does it? So I mean, maybe it is
Yeah,
better to go for Pickford.
that
I
is
can't
true.
believe he's hit 5 out of 5 clean sheets on this game. It's crazy, isn't it? To be honest.
Yeah. I don't think anyone really saw that coming, to be honest.
No, I think I targeted some of the other teams in my initial teams. Actually, I didn't have much Pickford, to be honest, but I targeted like a little bit of France, a little bit of Germany, where I was like paying for the premium goalkeeper,
Exactly.
and those obviously didn't work out too good. So yeah, I should have gone for Pickford. Maybe a lesson learned to split it even more next time to like just cover all of the good goalies or whatever, and then see if one of them absolutely flies like Pickford has. So,
Yeah.
but Donnarumma hasn't done bad either. I think he on the game officially, I think he's got 4 out of 5 clean sheets because even though they conceded against Austria, it was in extra time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he got given the clean sheet for that game as well, I think. So that was the first 4, and then they obviously conceded 1 to Switzerland. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then yeah, like I'm just reading on the side, Yarmolenko out. Yeah, I think there's if you haven't got Barella or Pedri, I think there's a really nice. So I think Pedri's a really good option. I believe you've got Pedri in some, haven't you, Glenn?
Yeah. I got quite a few Pedri because it's so cheap, really. I
He's a
just
nice.
had to get it. Oh, you frozen, Josh. You still there? Oh, I think you're back now.
Yeah, me.
I think you just froze.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, no problem. So I was just saying Pedri's played 90 minutes of every game.
Which is very
So
good. 3
it's
points.
a no-brainer for 5.9, really, isn't it? So
Yeah. Because if you think of like the average points for a player, like it probably isn't. Like you probably would take 3 points as like a baseline, wouldn't you? Like it is quite solid.
especially if you're getting the bonus of like getting through to the next round as well. That's what I always think is quite key. So if you get the 3 points this round, you're probably likely to get 3 next game as well. So that's become 6 all of a sudden. That's quite good when you bear in mind a lot of people won't have 11 players in the final. I mean, I think it's really hard to have that, to be honest. So if Pedri's scoring you 3 and 3, you almost have to think of these 2 weeks as 1 week, even though it displays as 2, I think.
Yeah.
So anyone who goes through, it doesn't really matter if they're blank because they're getting an extra game on half the players remaining in the tournament. So
Yeah.
I really like that. Yeah, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah. So looking at your strategy in general, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're favouring England. Yeah, going with the odds really. We've got the odds at the bottom there showing this is like the tournament winner. So
yeah. So I think my hands are tied in some of my teams. So as I say, I always adopt like an all-in strategy in these kind of spots. So I will always try and maximise whichever team I already have a lot of. Now, as it happens, I went really heavy on England on my wild card because to be honest, I did fancy us to beat Germany, and I knew a lot of people wouldn't have that strategy. So I was trying to go against the crowd a lot, basically, to try and catch up some points with some of my lower teams. So I've ended in a position where I've got 4 England in a lot of my teams, like already. So on those ones, it just makes natural sense to pick the favourites who I've also already got lots of to try and maximise getting 7 England players, for example. Especially if you can do it for free, that's even more of a bonus, to be honest. So on a team like this, I mean, I'm not sure what the bench is exactly, but I assume there's a little bit of money on the bench. I think it would I'd try and aim to get Spinazzola to Walker.
Yeah.
Lukaku to obviously I can't get Kane, but I'd use that as the bank to then maybe do Sarabia if he's injured, or one of my benched midfielders to Sterling. If that makes sense. So on this exact team, I'd probably only be able to get 2 out of 3 England just because of the Lukaku money up front and the annoyance of moving that around using one move. But I think this looks an obvious team to maybe go a Spain striker and then Lukaku and Sterling or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and you quite like the look of Moreno.
Yeah. So Morata got subbed on 55 minutes in the last game. Now, he did not have a good game, and I haven't seen him really have a good game in this tournament, to be honest. But the manager's kept faith with him up to this point. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they go with some kind of false 9 on Thursday, or just play Moreno as the striker, because he can play on the wing, or he usually plays on the wing, I think, but he can play up front as well, I believe.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Morata actually was benched on Tuesday. And for the sake of, I think he's 1.6 more than Moreno. I think if you can't afford Morata for whatever reason, it's not a disaster to go for Moreno if it gets you a better player in another position. I don't think that's like the end of the world. As we probably know, Moreno is going to get at least 30 minutes in both games if he makes it to the final. So it's not a complete disaster, is it, Glenn, to have two lots of 30 really anyway?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's very true.
And that's like the worst case, I think, for him to get 30-30. I think it could well be he gets a start. Even if Morata starts, he might play on the wing, and because if Sarabia is injured, for example. So I don't think it's the worst punt in the world. And don't get me wrong, if I didn't have Immobile, I would get Immobile on this team straight away over either of the Spain strikers, I think. But if you've already got Kane and Immobile, it's quite slim pickings up front, especially if you want to shoot against Denmark with like loads of England players. There's only really Moreno and Morata left, so it's but so
pool to pick from, isn't it?
Yeah, and just to talk about the all-in strategy I've talked about here, I know I've already mentioned it, but if I had a team with 4 Italy or 4 Spain already, I would definitely maximise going up to 7 on those. Like even if it was some unusual differential picks, I think if you're chasing, you're going to make loads of ground if you pick the right side of the Spain-Italy game and then just have like a few others on the outside. If Italy or Spain win the tournament, you're gonna make quite a lot of ground, because I think England will be the most popular transfers in this week, especially. So
that's interesting. Go on.
And then in terms of capping a defender, I was just going to cover off. I think if you've got 4 or 5 from the same team at the back for whatever reason, because we can go up to 7 per team now. I don't think we mentioned that actually. No, so just to clarify, you can have 7 per team now in total. So if you've got 5 England defenders for whatever reason, including the goalkeeper, so Pickford and the 4 defenders, it doesn't seem a bad move to captain one of those really if you're chasing and trying to just hit the 6x clean sheet, or whatever you want to call it, with like 5+ captain, you know what I mean? So that could be a really profitable play if it comes off, and especially if whoever you captain gets like an attacking return as well on top. You've hit the jackpot really, haven't you? So
it's a good idea. It's funny we've included it now. It's almost a little reward or Easter egg people who've watched this far.
I know. It's and just to look at the odds quickly, like Spain, Italy looks really close on the odds. I mean, I personally favour Italy, but I don't think there's much in it at all, like according to the bookies. So it's I think it's very valid to operate a bit of like a mixed strategy on that side. So maybe splitting it like 3 Italy, 3 Spain, and then just going all in on one of England or Denmark, depending on what you fancy, or if you want to go massively against the favourites or for the favourites. So I think I've ended up with quite a lot of like 5, 6 England and then 2 Italy, 2 Spain or something like that on some of my teams. So
I was just thinking, because I know you kind of want to go against it a bit, but then like with Mele, for example, like he's so cheap, he's an attacking fullback, it's almost riskier not to have him. Would you agree with that?
It is definitely risky to not have him just because of the ownership numbers, and he's looked really good throughout the whole tournament. But I don't think you can. I think if you're funding something else, it makes sense to get Mailer or Strager Larsen. We talked about as well, didn't we? As like another attacking full wing back for Denmark. But if you're all in on England, I think there's probably better places to use your transfer if you're upside chasing, if you're trying to like really close a gap, or you're really far behind the money places. You're better off trying to maximize England players and maybe like split the other game and just be like, right, if Denmark get through for whatever reason, I'm not going to cash. I accept that. But try and maximize the scenario where England do get to the final. See if you can make up even more ground on the people who had like some weird split of teams, or even worse, people who'd gone all in on the Denmark side, for example. So,
what do you think about, like, let's say someone's like 20 to 30k rank? It's like, even if they bring in like England players and Italy, and it's an England-Italy final, and they have all the players, they're probably still not going to make it into cash. would you say best strategy is to kind of go all in on like Denmark, Spain, or whatever? As like a
Yeah, I think I've set a line on my teams actually, because I think with a really like rogue captain choice, and like if everything goes your way, I think you can probably make up like up to 40 points on the bubble, like in terms of between, I think 10k, like that, which is where the minimum cash is. I think he's going to be on about 293 to 295 points after hits. So at the deadline, I think it'll be on about 293 maybe.
Mm.
Now, I was looking at my teams, and I think my ones in like 17,000 are like just about 30 behind. So I'm pretty sure they can make it just by like maximizing my transfers, maybe going for my Captain England defender strategy, where when I've got like 5 of their defenders, and just hope that comes in, for example. And then some of the others, I went like loads of Spain players, for example, just as like a bit of a differential thing, because I think Italy are more highly owned at this point than Spain.
Mm.
So like just on like current ownership, it makes more sense if you're chasing to go for the Spain side, especially if you think it's a close game. But I think all my teams that are like 40 points or below, like, so I think that covers like about 25,000 and below, I think. I think you're going to struggle to make up the ground without having like 5-6 Denmark players, to be honest. I think like that's the way you would get back into it. Like if you went because bearing in mind, if people have done the most popular strategy, which I believe will be going for England players, you're going to have 6 extra players to them in the final on average if you go 6 Denmark rather than 6 England. Like, and you have to accept like 80% of the time probably it's not going to pay off. You're going to just fall further down.
Exactly.
But if you don't do anything about it, you're not going to cash anyway. So I think you have to go for it for that 20% of the time where it does come off, and you make loads of ground on the field. So and for full disclosure, I've definitely got quite a few teams that are below that 25,000 line. So I think I've definitely had to take this strategy, but we'll see if it pays off, or see whether sort of 20, 30 of my teams are just dead from England beating Denmark. So fingers crossed. And for what it's worth, I definitely hope those teams are dead, and I hope England absolutely destroy them, to be honest.
Oh, sorry. Go on. What were you going to say?
No, let's talk about this. This looks exciting with the Kane captaincy. You really nailed it with that, didn't you? It looks like.
Yeah, like, because I kind of, in the group stage, I kind of went against Kane, because I was thinking, we're not scoring much in friendlies, and everyone seems to be with Kane. So it kind of felt like a differential to go against him with like Ronaldo, Lewandowski. I was quite happy to do. But now, when like Sterling was the one scoring, I was thinking, right, now I need to go back to Kane.
I love it.
5 years, he's a class player. Like all day, I'm on that, because the decision was Morata and Sterling, or Kane, and kind of spread the money.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really an easy decision to make, because like, as you can see here, I ended up getting in Højbjerg and Mæhle. So like, I really wanted Kane. And thankfully it's paid off, really.
It's really interesting, because for this game specifically, so the Ukraine game, I thought the captaincy between Sterling and Kane would be really similar. Because I think a lot of people would think like you're thinking, and be like, well, Harry Kane's one of the best strikers in the world. He hasn't had a good tournament, but he did just score in the last game. So maybe he'll like start, like, it's almost that psychological thing. They think he's going to start scoring now. So in the end, I ended up going with my gut feeling. I think I ended up captaining Sterling a lot more than Kane, which is what you saw on some of the previous screens. I think I just went Sterling captain. So I got it completely wrong in terms of the outcome. But I think on an ownership basis, it didn't really make much difference. I think they're both really similarly owned. And I reckon they were both similarly captained as well. So it was just a case that you obviously hit the brace this time, and like, are you gonna captain him again on this team, would you say?
Yeah, I think I will. I think that isn't really a decision to make. It's probably either him or you could do Shaw as a bit of a risk, or a Maguire, but
it's nice to just be able to leave it on him as well, isn't it? Not have to like move the like press like change captain or whatever. Just like Harry Kane did it last time for me. He's the best pick for this week. I'm going to leave it again. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Yeah.
But so in terms of this team, so who you've got 10 of your 11 already through, haven't you? It's just Lukaku in the starting 11 who's not through, isn't it?
Yes, it went pretty ideal there.
Oh, and Spinazzola's injured. Sorry, I've just spotted it. Yeah.
And then
So
also Sarabia a doubt as well.
yeah, but I think if you sell the likes of Gus and Spinazzola and Lukaku, you can have 12 players, including Sarabia, can't you? So I think that looks quite strong. I think to have that.
Yeah.
Because Gersons and Spinazzola are so expensive as well, relatively speaking, for defenders. You can pretty much get whoever you want at the back, really, for those two moves, can't you, as well? Which is quite nice, especially with the Lukaku money up front too. I presume you'll have to downgrade him to someone, but
yeah.
What are you thinking for this one?
I'm thinking at the back for Gossens, I want to get in kind of like a Bonucci or a Luke Shaw. They're the two really, and then
Same for Spinazzola, I'm guessing, or
I keep forgetting Spinazzola. Yeah, I think it'd probably be Spinazzola and Gossens too.
The two you said, yeah.
Yeah, and then it's quite a difficult one because I kind of look at Insigne and Sterling. I think they're actually similar like value. But yeah, obviously Sterling's quite a bit more expensive. So I think I'll probably end up with Insigne. Like I don't think I can afford Sterling really.
The thing is because that'd be for a hit. What you're talking about there, because obviously you need to sell Lukaku first for a striker, but it might be an interesting move to do Forsberg to Insigne for a hit, maybe if you can afford it. So like if you got Lukaku, because you've got to downgrade into someone. I'm not sure where you'll go, but maybe if you go down to like the likes of Moreno or Braithwaite or something like that, you might actually be able to afford Forsberg to Insigne, because I think you need about 2.6 for that.
Yeah, I've actually got a bit of money in the bank on this team, I think.
So you could just do Forsberg to Insigne anyway, to be honest, I think.
Yeah.
If you do the two defenders as well, because I think those are two really good defenders to bring in, Bonucci and Shaw.
Yeah.
The only other thing you could do is just go all in on England and do Spinazzola and Gussens to Walker and Shaw.
Yeah.
And then sort of, I don't know where you'd end up going up top with Lukaku. Would you go to Morata and risk it, or like would you just go all the way down to a Denmark or Moreno as we talked about, or what are you thinking for that slot? Because you probably do need some money from Lukaku still.
Yeah, it's all game theory at this point, isn't it? Because this one's ranked about 1,000, and I'm thinking, because I'm happy with that. It's in the money. Like it's always going to be in the money, really. So, like, how do I shoot for the higher places? Really, it probably is the all England defense, isn't it? Get a clean sheet in the final.
I think so. I think that's the all-in strategy, as I always call it. But
yeah.
I know you've got this team quite a few times, Glenn. Has it crossed your mind at all to split it a little bit, like in half or something?
No, I'm quite happy not splitting, to be honest.
You're just going for it, yeah. It's because a lot of people are going to be in your position actually, where they've probably got the same team multiple times.
Yeah.
So like they might decide to split at this point, I think, because this is obviously like one of the last two chances to split it. And in the final, you can only split the captaincy. You can't split the personnel. So like it's quite. I think a lot of people will diversify, especially the people who've mass entered. But I'm just leaving all mine as they are. So I'm just leaving them if they're in the block of like 4 or 5 teams, I'm just going to leave it the same. But
that's
I'm
good.
sure a lot of people will split. But yeah, so I think from a game 3 perspective, you're definitely supposed to go Gussens and Spinazzola to Walker and Shaw. I'm pretty sure about that. And then it's just like, what do you do with the rest of it? Because you're probably then going to sell Lukaku and Forsberg, and it's just like, which 2 guys do you get? Because at this point, then if you do Lukaku to the Denmark strikers, they're playing against 4 England defenders. So you don't really want that, surely. Like, you know what I mean? So it becomes, you could get in a Denmark defender just for the sake of like having him as your first sub this week, maybe. That seems reasonable to me. And then upgrading Forsberg to Insigne seems really good, considering you've got no Spain defenders.
I think it probably would be like Dolberg/Damsgaard and Sterling, or Morata and Insigne.
And then with the Morata and Insigne, I suppose the advantage of that one would be you'd be able to bench Højbjerg as well, because I think you'd still have 12 starters, wouldn't you? I mean, admittedly, we don't know about Sarabia yet, so it might be that you end up getting Højbjerg on anyway. But it might be a nice upside chasing thing to like have the other Denmark attacker on the bench, have Morata and Insigne who are like playing each other, and you don't really have the defenses covered that much. You've only got Donnarumma from what I can see, and then Just hope that Spain Italy's like a 2-2 or a 3-3 or something crazy, and
Yeah,
hope England win 1 or 2-0 basically. So with
yeah,
Kane goals, of course.
exactly. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yeah, it just depends how much you want Sterling over Insigne, really. Like, because they're like 4 million different, right? In
Mm,
terms of different price, like it does make a big difference. And Sterling's got an easier fixture, but it does mean a large downgrade up front, doesn't it? I think Morata down to a Denmark defender's Denmark striker's a pretty big downgrade, I think.
it is, and just taking a hit for a Denmark striker just feels wrong.
Yeah, I think it's I don't think I think it's a good hit though, and like you say, it's that thing about having an extra sub for the next round.
Yeah,
It might just make a difference. It might be an extra player you get in the final. So,
it's true. Yeah. So
uh,
yeah, go on.
and interestingly, if you do what you said with Insigne and Morata, you actually guaranteeing yourself an extra player in the final because they're playing each other. So you know what I mean? Like, so whichever way that result goes, you're like neutral on it really because they're both coming in. So, and I think you've already got like roughly three. I think if you do what we said, you'll have 3 Spain and 3 Italy. So it almost means you're not bothered about what that result is really. It sounds weird, but like
Yeah,
you're
it's
just going to
true.
have three from that game, whatever happens, and you just all in on England. So it makes sense to me, mate.
Yeah, because I'm thinking I probably don't want to get another Denmark player in because I'm already quite heavy with two. So
So the only other wild thing that you could, it sounds absolutely crazy. You could just take that side of it. And
yeah,
like, because that'd be the biggest upside shooting thing I've ever seen. I mean, I don't think it's something you'll end up doing, but just for the sake of it, you have only got 3 England players in this team. You know what I mean? A lot of people will be much more exposed than that, or like they'll at least have 4 or 5.
yeah,
You've already got 2 Denmark. You could just take the line of picking 4 Denmark, having loads in the bank, and just like maybe even capping one of the Denmark players and just hoping Denmark get through, basically. But that
yeah,
would be like a massively brave play, I would say, rather than just like trying
yeah,
to be sensible. And because from 1,000,
yeah,
mate, I don't know what the exact points breakdown is, but I'm pretty sure you can make a lot of ground in terms of cash in and money
yeah,
just by going the England side, I think, and just getting a bit lucky in the other game and say like get a couple of returns or something from someone. You know what I mean? I think you can really make a lot of ground still. So
yeah. That's a really interesting point to be honest. Because I was just thinking, yeah, because I could go all in on Denmark, captain for May there against England, and yeah, like because like if that comes off, I could make up so much ground. But
there's an absolutely crazy thing here because like Spinazzola has to go for you, I think, because he's injured
yeah,
for poor guy's injured for quite a while, I think. So
mhm.
hopefully he gets better. Because just a quick shout out to him, he's been amazing in this tournament. He's been the most exciting players to watch, I think. So, which is quite great for a left back to be like one of the most creative attacking players. It's like pretty incredible. Um, so if you went him to Striga Larsson, say, or Christensen, or whoever
Yeah,
you want, basically, you could almost back that game to be 0-0. It sounds
yeah,
crazy, but you've already got the 2 England players. It's only Kane who you're shooting against, really. You know what I mean? So you'd have 2 Denmark defenders, 2 England defenders, and just Højbjerg and Kane. So you wouldn't even have to go fully all in. You could just be like maybe 2 extra Denmark defenders if you wanted to do Gussen's to one of them as well,
yeah,
and just be 0-0. Captain Mailer, like have the double clean sheet, like as well as all the Denmark clean sheets that you've got next to him, and then yeah, it's just an alternative strategy. I mean, it feels a bit silly because you'll have loads of money in the bank. That's what I've
yeah,
noticed on all my Denmark all-in
yeah,
teams. I've got like 20 million in the bank on some of them. It's just like there's nowhere to spend it if you're all in on Denmark, literally, because England are the really expensive team left in. They're like the ones with Sterling and Kane at like 13 and 12. So if
mm,
you're shooting against England, like there's no money left basically. Like there's nowhere
yeah,
to
yeah.
spend the money rather. So it's like
Yeah, it's true. I think that's a
definitely a bolt.
psychological thing though, isn't it? Like it
Yeah.
realistically it's fine to have money in the bank.
Yeah. Often on daily games the correct strategy is to leave money in the bank because it makes it more likely that you'll have a unique entry, which
Okay.
means the times you do win, you don't have to split it basically. Because often with like the exact drafted team for the exact money, you'll find multiple other people have that
Uh,
entry because it's just like a logic. It's probably like if you picked a really sensible team, it's probably logical that someone else will have repeated that on a
yeah.
game where you only get to pick like 5, 6 players, which is often like what daily games are.
Mm,
So like it's often like the GTO correct strategy to just leave like a couple of thousand, if the budget's like 50k, or that's what it is on one game I play.
Yeah,
Sometimes leaving 2-3k in the bank is like the correct strategy to like make sure you differentiated from others. So yeah, not sure that's necessarily the case here, but it's just from an ownership perspective, I think the Denmark side is quite interesting to take. But
to be honest, I think if there was a chance of me like coming in the top, I don't know, like top 10 overall, I think I'd probably be tempted to risk it for Denmark, because I think if it didn't pay off, I don't think I could fall out of the money. So I think it's a risk worth it. But the thing is, I do think I'm so far from, I think I'm probably like 60, 80 points off the top. So I don't think I can make up that much ground.
I think you're right. I actually think it's quite close to where you are to be able to make up the ground. I think if you were like 50 off and you went all in on Denmark, I think you'd have a really good chance of winning still, genuinely, because it's really, a lot of people aren't brave enough to do it if they're like in a really good cashing position. Now, this is something I noticed on the season long game when I obviously was fortunate enough to do well in that. But I was paying hawk-eye attention to people's captains and transfers every week. So everyone in the top 40, I was like watching what they were doing every week. And no one takes the shot that they're supposed to take, basically. Like the correct strategy for a lot of those was 100% to like captain against Salah, because we all knew everyone was going to captain Salah in like the last 3 weeks because he was the correct option, or like he was the highly owned one who was always going to be popular. But no one took the chance on the last day of like capping Mane, for example, which I was so surprised about, because like they could have gone up to like 4th or 3rd potentially if they'd capped Mane, some of the people who were like 10th, 20th, you know what I mean? Because he absolutely demolished Salah on the last day. I think he outscored him by like 15 points. Well, he got 15, whereas Salah got like 7 or something. So, they just didn't take the shot. But I think that's quite a common theme on FanTeam from what I've seen so far. People just they want to just keep what the money they've got. You know what I mean? Like rather than risking 1,000 to win like 50, 60,000, which is like the correct maths of the situation they're taking basically. But they don't want to do that. They're just sort of happy with their 1,000, 2,000 that they might get. You know what I mean? If they play sensible. So. It's the
whole like theory or idea that you don't want to lose stuff because it's more painful to lose than it is to win, isn't it? So you want to keep what you've got. Really, I think that's just human nature.
I mean, it's crazy, but like just talking about the Premier League game for a second, I went into the last day obviously in 3rd, which was like 60,000 locked. Like if I'd have came 3rd and stayed there, sort of thing. I was so tempted to cap Mane on the last game of the season, like because me and my friends ran the numbers and stuff, and we were like looking what's the likely scenarios, like how likely am I likely to drop if it goes wrong, how likely am I likely to go up, and the maths did dictate that we were supposed to just slightly cap Mane. It wasn't too much over Salah because it was very unlikely I was going to catch first. The whole point, if I capped Salah, like it was almost impossible, and then the weird thing happened where the one scenario where it worked out, like I actually caught it, but like I was definitely supposed to cap Mane on the last day. I think in terms of making probably like an extra like 5k in EV or something, I was supposed to cap Mane. But I wasn't brave enough either. I just like tried to keep my money I was on. So and then I just got super lucky and hit it. So but the point being, a lot of people in between 1,000th and 1st will not take the shot that they're supposed to take, like of like just going the complete opposite way and punting Denmark basically. Whereas like I think the maths for like definitely people in like 500th, like so that's probably only like 10 points above you, isn't it, or maybe 15 points or something.
I think so.
I haven't looked at it, to be honest, so I'm just like sort of guessing, but if they're only like 40 off the top, the correct move has to be to chase it, I think, because the first 2 pages of people are not going to do that because they need to just lock up and try and like go up just on like little subtleties, like a different captain or like different combination of Italy or England players or whatever. Whereas like everyone behind that who's like X amount of points behind, like should be still shooting to try and win the 200k, which is like the life-changing amount of money, obviously, and like you don't often get a chance to try and win that. But
It's true.
in your spot, I agree. You're probably just a bit too far back. I think it's like I think even if you hit it, you still wouldn't win. So it's like
Yeah.
it probably isn't worth it at that point because it's going to go wrong so often.
Mm.
And do you mind if I like how many entries have you got of this team? You got quite a few entries of this team, right?
I've got, I think, 32 of this team.
Of this one, exactly. So for it to go wrong for you, I mean, it is much more high variance. I mean, like because you're gonna lose like £100 a team or whatever, probably if it goes down. Or I mean, like that becomes 3.2k. You're losing all of a sudden. Whereas even if you were to like, let's say for example, this team 32 entries, you were to somehow get first.
Yeah.
You would, I mean, you'd obviously get like all the top 32 prizes divided by like 32
Yeah.
and then spread
It's true,
evenly. But you're not shooting for as much upside per team because like
yeah.
like once you start looking at 32nd prize, for example,
Mm.
it's not as worth it than chasing the first prize. So yes, you will lock the
Yeah.
first prize, but also your equity will go down for like every team you chop in with, even if it's yourself. So like it's
Yeah. You know what? I might
but
do it with a couple of teams. Just try and
yeah,
maximize
just an experiment, just maybe
as I
two.
can.
Yeah, just try.
Yeah.
Just do it as an experiment, maybe with two of these. So maybe I've convinced you to split after all, because I do think it might be a sneaky good play to like split still.
Yeah.
But maybe only just do it with two and keep the admin down on the other 30 or whatever.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. Always keep the admin down. All right. So
yeah,
I guess, moving on. I think, just talk about strategy a bit. I guess we've covered so much about strategy already, but we've already talked about it already. But having one or two on the bench rate come in, because
yeah.
they'll make 11 for the final. Like if you
And
pick,
and I think you're lucky enough to be able to get to 12, which is one sub for free, basically, which is like a luxury position that most people won't be in.
yeah,
So I think especially to have that for free, I think you can just be settled on having 12. I don't think you need to take a hit for a 13th unless you really, really want to.
probably won't.
But in your case, you might want Insigne, so it might be worth the hit in that case because technically it does get you an extra like EV wise, it probably gets you an extra like 0.5 players for the final. You know what I mean? Whoever you bring in for that bench slot. So
and Insigne
yeah,
versus Højbjerg is probably like an extra 2 points there anyway on average just for this week. If he's in the
2
bench.
points and then the upside of the final. Yeah, so suddenly you're looking at like a 20-point upside. I had this spot in the season long game with Son actually because I think Tottenham had a double game week.
Yeah.
And I think his expected points for that week was like probably like 6 or 7 or something because he wasn't playing well. They had 2 all right fixtures, but like they weren't looking good, Tottenham, at all. So I think I had him as like 7 or 8 projected points.
Yeah.
And I was trying to work out whether to take 1 or 2 hits for him, basically, because I think it worked out I might have needed to take even a -8 for him.
Yeah.
But in the end, I did it because with someone like Son, the upside's like 30 points over those 2 games if he goes absolutely nuts. And
It's true.
Insigne seems like a similar player to that to me. Like as in he could get like up to 20 points over 2 games, you know what I mean, quite easily.
Yeah, for sure.
And so maybe it is just worth a 4 over the likes of Højbjerg, who's like capped at what, like 7-pointer probably or something if everything goes right for him. So
I'm probably gonna go out anyway,
yeah, it might go out. So you might only get 1 versus the 2, yeah. So
Okay. So I guess that's a strategy.
and then
Okay.
Harry Kane captain, I think, is the safe captain. Sorry, just to go back to the
Oh,
previous
yeah,
very quickly. Like, I think Harry Kane is the safe captain, and I think anyone other than that is probably like a really good punt. I've gone for quite a lot of Immobile or Insigne captain. I think that's quite interesting because they're highly owned,
Yeah.
but I think their EO is going to be like mostly their ownership, if that makes sense. So I don't think Insigne's EO, let's imagine it goes up to like 60. I don't think his EO will be any more than 70, even if he's 60% owned. Because everyone's just going to go for the England game, aren't they? Unless they're going against it, in which case they'll probably go for Denmark, to be honest. So I think these Italy players are really nice differential captains. And I also think if you're stacking a defence, you want to captain one of those that you've got in a defence. So I think that's also a really nice differential strategy. So
it's interesting from like a game theory perspective because you could go like Insigne or Immobile. Like, Immobile played bad last week, but at the end of the day, like he's a really good footballer. So it's like with Morata as well. Arguably, maybe that's a bad example, but maybe you want to captain Immobile because less people are going to do that. So then, if he does perform, it's good, even though maybe he's the obvious one.
This brings us really nicely onto this team, actually, because this is the guy in first. Just to say, I think I spoke about this last week, but he's
Yeah,
an amazing player. I think he's the all-time biggest winning player on FanTeam.
yeah,
He's going to find it really hard to get to Immobile on this team unless he's got loads in the bank or unless he loses Morata. He could lose Morata looking at it if he really wanted Immobile for whatever reason.
mm.
So that might be something he ends up doing. To be fair, I didn't spot that till just looking at it now,
Yeah.
but I think he could do Morata to Immobile and cover off the ownership, because I think Immobile will be much higher on than Morata for this week now.
Yeah. I see what you mean, because it's like if Immobile does get a brace or something, suddenly he's out of money, out of 200k. So,
well, because if I was top 20 or top 40, I'd be looking at this, and if I really fancied a differential captain, I'd be going, right, the guy top doesn't have Immobile, and it's hard for him to get to him, so I would just captain Immobile basically and hope he absolutely flies me up basically, and that seems like the only way people would be able to catch him, really. I mean, because he's covered off all the other players really nicely, hasn't he, to be honest? Do you not think?
But then,
he's
like
got the
you
main
said earlier about like people won't shoot the shot anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one's gonna
I know what you mean.
with Immobile.
Yeah, it might be interesting to go Sterling this week. I think that's a really it's more of a safe shot.
Yeah, I like that.
I think this week he will definitely be less captain than Kane now, which is why ironically I've gone all Sterling captain, I think, because I really think Kane will be really highly captain this week now.
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, I think he's the best captain, but I'm just trying to chase as much, like, if Kane blanks for whatever reason, and Sterling braces, that's like going to be huge rank gains, and that's what I'm looking for at this stage in all my teams pretty much. So, like, even my one in 800, I really want to go for something different, because the EV you could get from like going from 800th to 100th or even 50th is like so big, because the prizes are like so much higher at that point. Whereas, like, I don't know what the payout for 800th is. I'm pretty sure it's like 70 quid or something. I mean, like,
okay.
If that goes the worst to the worst, it probably goes down to 30 quid if I like min cash.
Yeah.
So I lose 40 quid. But if I go up to 50th or whatever, if I hit like a really good few weeks or something, then I think that'll probably go up to like just under a K even or something like that. That's just a no-brainer shot to take again, I think. Like, it's just, but yeah.
I like that. I might captain maybe like Maguire in all my teams or something.
That's my favourite captain for the week, I think. So I think I've gone Shaw, the most popular, actually, in terms of if I've gone for a defender. I also really like Pickford, because I think the floor's really high if we keep a clean sheet, because he'll probably have to make 4 or 5 saves, at which point it becomes like a 9-10 pointer. And then if you like miracle save a penalty on top of that or something, it's suddenly like one of the biggest hauls you can possibly get on FanTeam, you know what I mean? So it's but yeah, so for this guy, I think, just really quickly, I think, like you say, you've written down the transfers on the left-hand side here really nicely. So I think he'll probably go Dumfries to Italy, Forsberg to Pedri, Schick to Immobile if he can afford it. Now, if he's left some in the bank, he can afford it. If he hasn't left any in the bank, he definitely can't afford it. And then so maybe it might be Schick / Morata to Immobile, depending on like whether he's got the money or not to do that.
Yeah.
The Schick version.
I look at this team, I think there could be some money in the bank. But defense,
it looks like there's money in the bank, doesn't it? It's so cheap. Like, the defense looks so cheap.
That's shit.
The only thing I'm looking at is Berard. He's like kind of expensive for a third mid, considering he's got like Kane, Sterling. He's like yeah, but he doesn't have Immobile. Now every template team I've seen has got Immobile, and I've seen like quite a few teams that have got like Immobile, Morata, Kane front three, and still got Sterling and Insigne, for example. So there must be some money somewhere in this team. I reckon there must be something in the bank, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you can just about squeeze Schick to Immobile.
Yeah, because last time we looked at this team, I think he was about 20 points clear, maybe a bit less, but it was quite outrageous how far ahead he is. I think now he's only like 7 points clear. So it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the inevitability of having like 1,000 teams chasing you with 2 weeks to go. I think it's just very likely the gap would have gone down. Like, no matter, even if he had a great week, there was probably always someone high who would have had like an even better week somehow, just based on probability. So like, he's done well to still be in the lead, to be honest. I know that sounds a bit like a bit outrageous to say, really, considering he's 20 points ahead. But, I think he'll be happy with his 7-point lead. I think he's also got a team in 5th, and he might have a few just below that as well.
Yeah.
So he's got other ways to try and win the jackpot, you know what I mean? Like with his other teams. And it might be even like in the last week, he just does a few different captains, depending on who's in the final. He might just go 4 or 5 different captains on different teams to try and cover off some hulls and stuff. But
yeah. Do you think on this he's regretting maybe like not taking like another hit or something, maybe for like a Shaw or a Maguire?
In terms of the week coming up or the one just gone? Do you mean
just gone? Because obviously he started Zabar against England. Like obviously in hindsight that looks like a terrible decision, but because he didn't want to take a hit there.
I think I did. Did he only use 3 moves last week? Sorry, I can't see it, to be honest.
I don't know, but I think he would have done, yeah.
Yeah, because I was looking at mine, and any team where I had 11 for last week, I was happy enough with that, because I was sort of like foreseeing more hits this week maybe, and I was thinking like, well, not all my players are going to go through, you know what I mean? So I will need to use some moves next week. So it almost felt like a 1 week hit for a lot of them, like for the likes of getting. Oh, so sorry, mate. Last week he wouldn't have been able to get an extra England because he's already got 4. It was 4 maximum last week.
Oh, good point.
So that might be why he didn't do it, because if he had the money in the bank, I think Zabani to Shaw was a good move last week. You know what I mean? But it's just, I think it's just the cap on the players.
That is very true. Yeah.
He could have just got an Italy defender, I suppose. So he could have got like Spinazzola, which would have been a disaster as it happens. But he wasn't to know that, obviously. But that was probably what he would have done, isn't he? If he did a move last week, he would have just got an extra Italy defender.
And to be honest, I think he's probably done the right thing, because like, do you want to take a hit for a defender who's playing against Belgium? Like, probably not.
If he has got money in the bank, which we both think he's got some, I'm not sure how much it is, but it feels like it's at least 2-3 million. Leaving the money might be a genius play this week to now be able to get Immobile and cover that off. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it just depends on whether you feel lucky or not, basically. But I think the moves on the left hand side are probably what he's going to do.
Yeah.
Kral to Larson might not be worth it necessarily, but like that's like an option of like a third move maybe if he doesn't choose to do Schick to Immobile for whatever reason.
I actually think the Zabani, having him playing, is actually quite smart, because it's kind of a little hedge against Sterling and Kane.
Yeah, I just think having 11 last week was a bonus on most people, especially for free. So if he got this for free, I think like he was probably more than happy with that. Yeah. To just have 11, Zabani, whatever. If he gets like 1 point, I mean, minus 0.3 is almost like as bad as it can get. Really, that's like the worst case. You know what I mean? Just gets like a blank, basically like a 0.
Yeah.
Whereas like if Ukraine had done all right and maybe taken us to extra time or something, that would have been like a 2-3 points, which is like, you take that all day for free, you know what I mean? Compared to like having to get a 6 from like a Spinazzola, as we talked about, for example, it was one option he could have got. But no, I think he's really well set. He's got most of the really popular players covered off, which reduces his variance a little bit. I'd imagine he caps Kane, because I think a lot of the people at the top will cap Kane. Yeah. And then if he does the moves on, say, the left-hand side as one example, like gets in another Italy defender like Di Lorenzo or Chiellini or something, gets in Pedri, gets in maybe Kral to Larson or something, I think he's got a really nice sort of 12 players for next week. But I like his team, and I think he's obviously like an absolute boss man at the game anyway. So like he doesn't need us to tell him what to do. But I'm sure I'm hoping it'll be interesting to compare to what he actually does, isn't it? If we have a review of it on like after Sunday's game or whatever.
Yeah.
To see if he actually does what we predicted here. But
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I was just thinking what he did last week. I think he probably had Depay and Lukaku. No, not Lukaku. Who would have had Depay and Ronaldo maybe, or someone, and he's done that to Sterling.
Feels like that. No, so you know what he had? He already had Sterling and Kane last week. He's an absolute boss man, because he had them. Like he did them on his wild card. He already had them.
Yeah.
So I think he's just done some fringe moves here, to be honest. I don't think he's done much at all, to be honest. Maybe he's got in the 2 England defenders and goalkeeper.
I think
because he definitely had Stecklenburg last week, but I'm pretty sure he might have had a different goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So I think he might have got in Stones and Pickford, or at least Pickford, I think, because I'm pretty sure he had a different goalkeeper.
Yeah. I think maybe he got in one of the Italy players as well. Maybe Berardi got in this week.
I think he had Lloris in goal, I think, if I remember rightly, because I remember looking at his team the other week. I think he had 3 France. So I think he got in Morata, because I think he did that in for Benzema, because he definitely had Benzema.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, because he captained him last week.
Yeah, he did. Didn't
So he definitely had him. And then I think he had Lloris in goal. And I think he might have also had Kimpembe or Varane. So I think he got in Pickford, maybe Stones, and definitely Morata. And then, I think those were his 3 moves, because all the rest looked like super template from last week. He wouldn't have got in Berardi because there was quite good rumours that Berardi was getting benched. So he definitely wouldn't have done that, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it must have been those 3. But anyway, should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think we're kind of to the end. Yeah, it's just anything else to talk about?
Amazing. Yeah, just good luck to everyone in the last week. I think it's the last official week. There's 2 game weeks, but good luck to everyone. I hope someone that's watching, or I hope Glenn, you for example, have like an amazing like rank rise on like one of your teams that we can talk about maybe next time or whatever. But yeah, just good luck, and don't be afraid to shoot against the crowd if you're in like a position you're not happy with, or if you really want to like chase the massive upside, then go for a weird captain or like stack a defense or something and see where it gets you if it comes off. So yeah.
Couldn't agree more, to be honest. And just want to say to everyone, remember to do your transfers and change your captain ahead of the final as well, if you want to.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just that. I think it's really interesting to like that captaincy decision going into Sunday, like, because if we assume that England get through, I think it's going to be a really even final, like in terms of whoever we play out of the other 2 teams, or at least on paper, I think it'd be quite an even final.
Yeah.
So suddenly there becomes loads of captain options to pick from, which makes it like really interesting to see whether you like stick or twist, basically. Because I think Kane will be really popular again if England get to the final, but also like it's do you go for like a weird like Barella captain or like Jorginho captain or something absolutely crazy that just might like get a goal or something, and you can make some points there as well. So I think it's important to just like take stock on like Thursday or Friday, like see what position you're in. Are you happy with it? Is the correct decision to go with Kane or to go against Kane? So only time will tell. It's been good chatting though, mate.
Yeah, great chatting with you as always, and all the best.
All right, mate. Take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
See ya. Bye.